Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Laura Totin Codori. I am the owner of Worm Return. When I was just starting my company, I was a finalist in Invest in Her. And they said, you need your story. I'm like, okay, when did I first start caring about the environment? And I remembered I was in like second or third grade at Catholic school in Castle Shannon, St. Anne's. And in the suburbs, there's not a lot of litter, okay, not like we experience here in the city, but there's still litter, and it bothered me. And so I got a couple friends on the schoolyard, and I was like, look, I know recess is supposed to be kickball and hide and seek, but like, would you guys clean up litter with me? And they're like, yeah, we do that. So I go to the principal, and I'm like, Sister Marlene, we want to clean up the parking lot, the playground. Can we do this? And she's like, yes, I'll give you time on the PA system. And so I grew up in the 80s, and we were the trash busters. And we had a little jingle, and I wish I could remember it, but it was like, when you see trash on your playground, who you going to call? Trash busters. And I was like, okay, things shouldn't be on the ground. They should be in trash cans. Because back then, you know, like, we didn't think about landfills. And then one day, somebody said to me, you are so into the environment, because, you know, I did litter cleanups. I recycled like crazy. Great. I meet somebody who's like, why don't you compost? I said, because I don't garden. I can't grow things. I said, well, wait a minute. I mean, compost just makes dirt, and the earth is made of dirt. So even if I can't grow things in the dirt, I could literally just like throw it back on the ground. I said, or I could like donate it to a community garden. And so I started composting. So on our third level, I started this composting operation where I had actively composting, almost done composting, and then things that like aren't even close. So like my browns, my carbon-based materials. And this guy's like, you got to stop doing this because the people up the street are trying to sell their house. Nobody's going to buy this house with your little science project down here. Turns out somebody did buy the house.
Because of your science project?
Next thing I know, they cut their lawn and they're dumping over into my compost piles.
Sweet.
Like, that is why they bought the house.
Because they're like,
here do that. This person is doing this. And I was like, all right. And so I wind up at Robert Morris. I had not done higher level math for 10 years. It is not like riding a bike. I spent my whole first semester crying. Now what am I going to do? And I realized through other life experiences, I'm pretty good with money. I'd make an excellent financial planner. So I switched to a finance degree. I go in, it's spring of 17. I went to Robert Morris fall of 15, changed majors in spring of 16, get through my first year of finance, go to Uncle Frank's office, first day of classes, and he's like, you're taking an entrepreneurship class this semester. I was like, yeah, I am, but like, I'm never going to own a business. Like, I've had some experience with that. It's never going to happen. He's like, well, your professor changed. I was like, really? He's like, you're going to have Dr. Latta. I said, oh, I had her last semester. She was great. I do not want to take this class, but I can make it work if it's Dr. Latta. So I walk into the class, not going to own a business. It's not going to happen. No way. But I have an idea for a business. And I present my idea to the class, well, my group. And the one guy, Colby Cox, he had 3 of his own ideas. And he's like, but I like her idea. My vision was inspired by a company called TerraCycle. Tom Zaki. He was a Princeton dropout, and he started by growing worms in his dorm room. Well, actually his friends, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, why it started is when he was in high school, he and his friends were growing pot. And they had this pot plant called Marley, and they tried all the things, nothing worked. And so he goes to his first semester of college, he comes back on semester break, he goes to see his friend, and his friend's like, look at Marley, and Marley is flourishing. And Tom's like, well, what did you do, man? He's like, pulls out from under his dorm bed a worm bin. He's like, worms, man. Worms. He's like, I put this worm poop on Marley, and look at Marley, man. He's like killing it. And Tom Zaki, he's like, there's got to be a way to make this big. And so that was my inspiration. And it turned out my professor had actually mentioned TerraCycle in her dissertation.
Oh.
So one guy in my group, I can't remember his name. I just called him Negative Nancy. He's like, well, she did her dissertation on TerraCycle. Like, if your idea is because of TerraCycle, like, this isn't going to work. Colby Cox was like, I like her idea. And so while I'm in class and I'm like, not going to own a business, but I'm determined to pass this class, I start going to see Dr. Latta, like, more often and more consistently. And then I start asking questions that were like outside the scope of the course. And I'm like, I think this is what I want to do. I think this is what I need to do. Dr. Latta's like, we're going to take you on an entrepreneurship field trip. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting on the bus. I sit at the front because I've always, even since I was a kid, I preferred talking to the teachers than I did the students. Mm-hmm. So I'm up there and Dr. Latta's like, you need to tell Dr. Griffinell your idea. And so I tell Dr. Griffinell and we're sitting on the bus and then we go to Everyday Cafe in Homewood, completely cashless coffee shop, go see what they're doing, get back on the bus. And Dr. Griffinell's like, okay, now tell me more. I didn't become an LLC until January 3rd of 2018. That's my lucky day. But I think it was like November of 17, Dr. Griffinell calls me and she's like, are you doing anything tomorrow? It's like, I mean, no. Like, what's going on? She's like, I just want you to come to this like panel that I'm having. I'm like, okay. So I show up. It was inclusive innovation. And I sat on a panel with Leah Lizarrando from 412 Food Rescue, Marita Garrett, mayor of Wilkinsburg at the time, the guy that started Meter Feeder, a representative of Thread. And I'm sitting there like, how did I get here? How did I get here? Like, I'm nobody. And then Mayor Peduto at that event announced that he was starting the microloan program through the URA, 2% loans for starting businesses. And I'm like, man, what could I do with a 2% loan? And I went and applied and I got it. I have 3 more payments left. Yes.
Cool.
And through that opportunity, that's how I met you. Yeah, no, my mom is not environmentally conscious. My biological father, not environmentally conscious. My stepdad, not environmentally conscious. I think it was really my pap. You know, we'd go for walks just about every day, several on holidays, you know, one before dinner, then one after dinner. And sometimes I'd take a garbage bag with me and we'd clean up garbage as we went. Papap's the only person I can think that planted this seed in me, because no, again, love you, Mom, you did not plant this seed.
Wanted to talk about, since this is a podcast about people's personal food evolution, I know that you are a vegetarian now, but you weren't always. Your parents weren't vegetarians. So tell me how that came about, and was it also when you were in 3rd grade? Because that is just such a young age to be like moved to do something. I love it.
I find, though, in my experience, it is the kids that are that young that are thinking about these things and that take interest in what I do. My parents were not vegetarians. When I was growing up, my mom never had to fight me to eat my vegetables, even vegetables she didn't like.
That's
I
impressive.
love lima beans. Oh my gosh, do I love lima beans. My mom does not like lima beans. Mom had to fight me to eat my meat, never my vegetables. My dad thinks the reason I first became vegetarian around 13 years old was because I bit into a hamburger that was bloody. And I'm like, no, Dad, it really wasn't your fault. It's because my best friend was like, I'm vegetarian. I'm like, so am I. That's why I first became vegetarian.
Just that peer pressure.
I mean, how do you make your choices when you're a teenager?
Yeah,
based
and
on
how
what your
old
friends
were you
do.
at that
13.
At 13, okay.
And I stayed vegetarian until I was in my late teens, early 20s. I remember it so clearly. I was actually driving through where I grew up, the Green Tree area. There used to be the Samurai Steakhouse. I drove by the Samurai Steakhouse and I was like, I haven't had a steak in like 10 years. I really think I want a steak. And so I was just signing a lease on an apartment in Brighton Heights that day. And the landlord meets me. She brings her dad, and her dad's wearing this white, bloody coat. And he's like, so I'm a butcher. And if you need any steaks or anything, I was like, bring me your steaks. And so I started eating meat again. The first time I had a pork chop from a locally grown and raised pork farm. It was Moon Family Farm in Mercer. I ate that pork chop. I took a bite and I said, oh, I think that's a little bit of fat. Gulp. Swallowed it. Shelley, my plate was empty. I could taste the difference between what I was used to my parents buying. You know, we grew up pretty poor. So, like, my parents couldn't afford to go to a local butcher. Mm-hmm. You know, we went to Foodland, which was a thing. Again, 80s. Yep. Shop and Save. Mass-produced,
factory
cruelly
farms.
Treated animals.
CAFOs,
no wonder I didn't like those animals. When I ate Rich Moon's pork, vegetarians and vegans have been saying this for years. You can taste the difference. The fear that's in that factory-raised animal versus Rich's pigs that were loved and cared for until that time came. It's a hard thing for me, Shelley. It's a gray line. I think for health reasons, I probably do need more protein.
It's not necessarily true that you can't get protein if you don't eat meat. Like, there's protein in a lot of things. So that myth has always bothered me. Most cultures have something that it's like peanut butter and toast. That is a perfect protein. Beans on toast.
I don't like
England.
peanut butter on bread. I like peanut butter on a spoon, but not
basically
on bread.
It's a legume and a grain, and put together they make a complete protein. Like he's
this is the kind of stuff I need help with. I do want to stick to a vegetarian, preferably vegan diet, but I just don't know how to get the nutrition that I need to fit into the schedule that I have.
I could not do vegan.
I mean, you know, there's actually research that says cheese releases a chemical in your brain. It's like an addictive thing. When the
happy crystals and like the hard aged cheeses, you get that little crunch, and that's a happy crystal.
When I first went vegan, I don't remember what year it was, but I know for sure it was around Christmas time. And my mom's like, literally, Laura, I just cooked 4 different separate meals for you, vegetarian, your dad, celiac, your nephew, egg and dairy allergic. Can you please wait to go vegan until after Christmas? I said, okay, I can do that.
Give me a minute.
So I waited to go vegan, and I did it from December until about November, when my sister looked at me and she's like, Laura, can you please just eat a pizza? You are so thin. Shelley, I really thought I was going to miss cheese. Because I did it for the ethical reasons, I didn't miss it one bit. Not one bit, except in January. My first month of it, I was like, I had a really bad day, and I'm like, all I really need is a white pizza with spinach from Emily's, and that'll make my day. That was the only time I broke my veganism, from December 26th until November of the following year. But I couldn't keep my weight up. I got really, really thin. For the first 2-3 weeks, it was like I went through some kind of cleanse. My problem was I couldn't keep up my weight. I've always been thin. When I was in high school, I actually worked really hard to break 100 pounds. This is something, if I could get this out into the universe. And a friend of mine actually just said this to me recently. She's like, well, you're very healthy. I said, actually, I'm not. I said, I have pains in my wrists. I have pains in my neck. I have pains in my back. She goes, well, I assume because you're thin, that means you're healthy. I said, and that has to stop. And I'm right now, I'm teetering again, because I know so many good farmers. And while I'm trying to maneuver, is it healthier to eat animals than to live strictly plant-based? I'm still not sure. But again, thinking of Blackberry Meadows, I met those pigs.
Yeah.
Those are some happy pigs.
Oh, yeah.
One of the guiding principles of Worm Return is the food recovery hierarchy.
Yes.
Grow less food. Eat the food we grow. What we can't eat, feed to animals. What can't be fed to animals. And now, if you are talking the U.S. hierarchy, it's different than the Pennsylvania hierarchy. The U.S. says then anaerobic digestion, then composting, then landfill. Pennsylvania actually puts composting above anaerobic digestion.
Yeah, I would too.
When I first started my company, I used to use the phrase turning kitchen waste into garden gold. Just that word, when you think about the psychology of things, I really don't want waste.
Yeah.
I want scraps. Why I started my company was because 25 years restaurant industry, I saw what kitchens can't use. And restaurants are so low profit. They use everything they can. They don't let things go to waste. But the tops of peppers, the rinds of melons, what can you really do with that? Our society as a whole needs to consider what we're doing. I am very proud of my story. I have faced a ton of adversity. My life did not work out how I thought it would be. Shelley, what I really wanted to do was find a cure for diabetes. That was my original life goal.
Who has diabetes?
My pep did. And so I was like, I'm going to figure out how to cure diabetes. And, well, my first year of college, my DNA didn't move on my gel. If you watch Law and Order, and they're like, we got the DNA results. That's how they do it, is they do a centrifuge. They drop the DNA into a gel. The DNA moves up the gel and leaves markers.
Okay.
I sat in my lab for 4 hours. Everybody else was gone. My gel never moved. Lab's supposed to only be like 3 hours. I spent 4, almost 5 hours in that lab. Nothing happened. I come home, to my dorm. I call my mom, bawling my eyes out. I'm like, Mom, my gel didn't move. She's like, maybe you're not supposed to be a research scientist.
That's heartbreaking.
It was very heartbreaking because I was dead set from 3rd grade.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do. But I'm no good at it. So now what? And I kind of flailed around for 20 years. Like, well, now what?
No.
Now what?
You assembled your skills and your expertise. That's really what I think is the goal of my podcast, is to see people living their bliss, value-centric, heart-centric careers. And it's a culmination of all of our life experience that comes together. This is the result, and it's great.
I'm thrilled that I got to meet you after years of wanting to meet you.
And I'm glad we didn't get into that part of the story.
And now I didn't just get to meet you, I get to say you're my friend.
Aw, hey! All right. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.
With Bowl and Spoon is written, produced and hosted by Shelley Codori. Copy editing by Carolyn Ristow of Details Review. Original theme song was written and performed by Paul LeBreeze and Friends. You can listen to With Bowl and Spoon wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, review and share. Follow us and send us questions or messages on Facebook and Instagram at With Bowl and Spoon. Thanks for listening.